You understand the threat of China. We understand the threat of China, but when you have a rising military and economic power that is China, that's trying to dethrone the US in both categories, it's troubling that you could potentially have a vice president of the United States who has such a fond place in his heart for the communist country that he should be actually very concerned about.
House Oversight Chair James Comer is moving on from Hunter Biden and his new target, Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz. In a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray, Comer said the Committee on Oversight and Accountability is conducting a government-wide investigation into the Chinese Communist Party's political warfare operations against America and the response from federal agencies. Vice President Kamala Harris recently announced her vice presidential running mate, Timothy Walz, the current governor of Minnesota. And here is Comer's explanation for why they're looking into Walz. Take a look.
As you all know, China steals our intellectual property. They steal our patents. They fund disinformation campaigns. They try to divide our democratic government. They do everything they can to harm everyday Americans. Whether you're a working class American, whether you own a small business, whether you're just someone that just wants to go and vote and live in a free democratic society, China is a threat to every way, shape, and form of our everyday lives. And to see how fond of China is that Harris is picked for vice president it's troubling to me, and it should be troubling to every American.
Now, you saw it at the end briefly, and we'll pull it up here. This is what Comer and the right are arguing are concerning ties for Walz to China. He taught English in China in 1989. He spent his honeymoon in China in 1994, and he started a business which organized trips to China for US students. I mean, teaching in China in 1989, the horror. But what are the context here? So we pulled some explanation for you. The 1 year that Mr. Walz spent teaching English in southern China was the start of what would become a decades-long relationship with the country. As high school teachers in Nebraska and Minnesota, Mr. Walz and his wife, Gwen, regularly led trips to China in the 1990s and early 2000s to introduce students to China's history and culture. Mr. Walz has said that he has traveled to China some 30 times, including for his honeymoon. That deep history of engagement with China reflects a lesser known international dimension of the Democratic vice presidential candidate. If elected vice president, Mr. Walz would bring to the White House unusually extensive personal experience in China, a history that supporters say could be an asset at a time of volatile relations between Washington and Beijing. And as for Comer's investigation, Comer is now seeking information about the Chinese entities and officials Walz has engaged and partnered with, as well as any warnings or advice the FBI may have given to Governor Walz about US political figures being targeted or recruited for CCP influence operations. Now, Cenk, what seems like a new Red Scare for the right seems like somebody who could help restore diplomatic ties.
Okay, I want you guys to remember that when he was going to China at the time, he was just a high school teacher. Nothing to do with politics. Had not run for any office and didn't run for any office for another 20 years. Man, that's some deep spying right there. We'll find a rando teacher in the middle of Nebraska and assume he'll go into politics 20 years later and be wildly successful. Really? If the Chinese are that smart, we're screwed anyway. Okay, come on. Really, you think that's what's going on here? When he had nothing to do with politics back then and didn't even have an inkling of it for decades. So this is, as usual, horse crap. And they're so desperate to demagogue and not just tie him to something bad, but tie him to a different ethnic group that's bad. Because they're having trouble. We showed you yesterday. They're like, well, he looks like a cuddly guy. This was on Newsmax. And they're like, he looks like Santa. I bet he's serial killer Santa. They're desperate, right? Because in their mind, they're like, he's a white male. I don't know how to attack him. You could try policy. I mean, I think his policies are fantastic, but they can't get out of their way of thinking. They're like, well, since he's white, we're gonna have to tie him to something else. Oh, the Chinese. He went to China when he was a teacher. Ah, we got him. Did you? Okay, so, but as Comer was speaking, he said, this is how evil and terrible China is. They fund misinformation campaigns, then they try to divide Americans, and they try to make it harder to vote here. I'm like, are you just worried about the competition? Because you just described exactly what the Republican Party does. So, I mean, I appreciate you telling on yourself. All right, but that leads us to Trump. Back when Trump was in office, he took executive action against the Chinese Tik Tok, okay? We're not gonna have any Chinese companies here. We're gonna ban Tik Tok. Ah, yeah, you got them. Well, then a strange thing happened in this campaign. Well, let's see what he told Charlie Kirk 2 months ago.
And you'll never ban TikTok, that's for sure.
I will never ban TikTok.
Thank you.
So you went from trying to ban it when you were president to swearing you'll never ban TikTok now. I wonder why. Oh, look at this headline. Big Republican donor Jeff Yaz owns shares in Trump media merger partner. The billionaire Wall Street financier is also a major investor in ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of TikTok, which faces a possible ban in the United States. That is an investor that works with the Chinese government, well, not Chinese government, but Chinese citizens and a Chinese company, buying Donald Trump and getting him to change his policy. So if you're deathly afraid of China, how about your guy who says, give me money and I'll do whatever China wants? Let alone, compared to a guy who went to China 30, 40 years ago when he was a teacher. All right, Jackson.
He went to China 30, 40 years ago as a teacher, and he's still not a wealthy man. You know, like he doesn't have any stock investments. He lives in the governor's mansion. He doesn't have any real estate. So whatever type of, under the table deal he's got going on with China, it certainly doesn't seem to be paying off in any type of monetary way. He just seems to be a guy that everybody's becoming enamored with. He's quickly becoming America's dad. And in fact, I would credit him for a lot of this campaign success in terms of the rhetoric, the theme, the tone. He started the whole weird thing. And, he's really injecting hope into the entire Democratic apparatus about what we could possibly do. Because, of course, Kamala Harris isn't like a progressive, but one of the things that I've really been stressing to my audience and anybody who listens to me is we can do more, whether that be locally in our community, city council. But the whole point of being involved in politics is to keep our feet on people's necks. And he's really instilling hope into the country. And obviously they know that. They see the impact he's having. We didn't talk about it because we didn't have time. But, when they were on there talking about, why does Tim Walz know anything about tacos? Why is he the spokesperson for tacos? Versus Donald Trump and JD Vance talking about, postmenopausal women's purpose and things like that. But they don't have anything to talk about. They have absolutely nothing. And it's clear because look at what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we also need to talk about this xenophobia that we're seeing play out with China. The Democrats did help fuel that. I mean, Biden especially helped push that narrative to turn China into an adversary. He made it a keystone of multiple State of the Union addresses. If you want to compete with them in terms of economic growth, sure. But some of the rhetoric that they have pushed out, despite apparently not realizing that, hey, whoa, all these jobs that you all collectively helped send elsewhere, guess where most of them are right now? We're not gonna talk about that. It's a result of your policies that they're so economically dominant. Good job, you did it, congrats. And it leads to real world hate. And we saw that there was a big campaign, Stop Asian Hate. No one's talking about that anymore. They tried to blame China for COVID. Like all of these things, you think they did that intentionally? Let's be realistic here. Who would release a global pandemic in their own country intentionally with the objective of causing harm? It's totally ridiculous. We've seen it for years. And now the right can just play off of it. Oh, that country we've been conditioning you to fear, to hate for years. Well, this guy went on his honeymoon there. They did the same thing to Bernie by going to the Soviet Union on his honeymoon. Who cares? Who cares? This is such a non-story, and it shows the desperation after Comer got embarrassed, never producing any evidence on the Hunter Biden story. Now he's moving on to something else, which will surely amount to nothing, but will give him headlines, it'll give him press clippings, it'll give him opportunities to hold hearings just to try to smear Walz going into November.
Yeah, last quick thing. Can we just compete with China economically without having to hate them? Is that possible? Like, we should protect our patents, we should protect jobs here in America, but we don't have to hate anybody while doing it. It's so weird that they play this political game, and Jordan's right, both the Republicans and Democrats play it. Of course, when it comes to race, the Republicans play it more, right? But oh no, we have to hate the Russians, and we have to hate the Arabs, and we have to hate the Chinese. No, we don't. No, we don't. We can hold them accountable, their governments accountable, without hating them. It's not that hard.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.